Part 57. The Strongest Assassin in the Server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 561. Mobile Reading. In the first second, Sun Yang's HP suddenly dropped by 10,000, and he entered a state of poisoning. His skin turned black and green, which was terrifying and abnormal. Minus 10,000. Poisoned and losing blood, another 10,000. On the other side, King Yama and the judge finally discovered Sun Yang. The boy finally showed up. King Yama and the judge roared angrily, and were about to kill Sun Yang instantly, but found that Sun Yang's face was full of pain, and his whole body was covered in green and black patches. He was obviously in a highly poisonous state. Ghost insect. That kid is crazy, he actually used killing on himself. King Yama and the judge looked at each other with shock on their faces. They suddenly became afraid of this madman Sun Yang. Suddenly he thought, if Sun Yang dared to kill himself, how could he let them go? No, I'm afraid there are ghost insects in our bodies now, Queen Yama roared knowingly. Both he and the judge are gods, with strong vitality and very high resistances, including poison resistance and bleeding resistance. Until now, they have not discovered the ghost bugs in their bodies, but it is obvious that if they are left alone, the ghost bugs will inevitably devour their flesh, blood, and internal organs and grow. After they grow to a certain extent, they have nothing to do because the ghost bug is inside their bodies. Although they are gods, the ghost insects will definitely not be able to kill them in a day or two, but over time, they will be devoured sooner or later. Possessed by Shengang. King Yama immediately took action to add a layer of divine power to himself and the judge. Boom! As soon as the Gangchi appeared, a terrifying storm emerged, instantly blowing away the long table in front of King Yama and the judge's desk. Then the two of them looked inside with serious faces, searching for the location of the ghost insect. You must know that this divine energy not only increases the body's surface defense, but also increases the strength of the flesh, and internal organs in the body. Only in this way can they dare to slowly deal with the ghost bugs in their bodies. As for Sun Yang, they no longer have time to worry about it. Anyway, Sun Yang, a lunatic, would definitely die if he used the killing method on himself. Minus 20,000. On the other side, Sun Yang's black, green, and scary face was covered in cold sweat, and he looked extremely painful. Suddenly, he felt a pain in his abdomen, and he clearly felt that the ghost insect had bitten him hard in his abdomen, and he lost 20,000 blood. The next moment, flames burst out of his body for no apparent reason, and in the blink of an eye he became a burning man. Tisk tisk, what a terrifying burn effect. What's more important is that the poisoned state has not been covered yet. Sun Yang felt uncomfortable all over, grinning in pain, but with a weird smile on his face. He was even excited because of the power of the ghost bug. At this moment, poisoning and burns, these two negative states, appeared on Sun Yang at the same time. This is very strange. Generally speaking, the boost state, which players call BFF, can be superimposed. But the negative status will be overwritten, and the new negative status will overwrite the old negative status. For example, if a player falls into a dazed state and is later frozen, then he is in the frozen state and the dazed state is automatically cancelled. But the ghost bug is so weird, attaching two or even more negative states to the target at the same time. Minus 20,000. Poisoning. Minus 20,000. Burn. Sun Yang couldn't see inside. He didn't know that the ghost bug in his body was only the size of a fingernail, but after swallowing a mouthful of flesh and blood, his size doubled. The toxicity and fire properties doubled in an instant. Sun Yang lost blood continuously, losing 40,000 in 1 second, plus the poisoning damage in the previous second, and the 2 bites of the ghost insect. In just 2 seconds, Sun Yang's HP dropped by 80,000. Fortunately, he had just obtained the title of Thief God and his HP limit had been increased by 50,000 points. Otherwise, he would have died by now. In addition to damage and negative status, a system prompt rang in Sun Yang's ears. System, you have been eaten by ghost insects, your vitality and blood are weak, and all attributes are reduced by 1%. All attributes dropped by 1%. This is nothing at first, but now it is only 2 seconds before the ghost bug is born. What if it takes a few more seconds? Of course, Sun Yang will never have the chance to experience it again, because his current HP cannot last for another second. Click. The low gnawing sound seemed to come from inside the body, or it might just be Sun Yang's psychological effect, but Sun Yang was obviously in pain. Minus 30,000. Injuries appeared, Sun Yang's eyes lost their vitality, and he died. With a bang, Sun Yang's body fell straight down. The next moment, the body turned into white light and disappeared. It was obvious that Sun Yang had gone to Nahi Bridge to be resurrected. As the body disappeared, a black insect about the size of a little finger with 2 rows of sharp, jagged teeth was exposed in the air. Without a flesh and blood container, it seemed extremely uncomfortable. It rolled on the ground in pain, struggled for 2 seconds, and then stopped moving. After a while, white light flashed, and the corpse of the ghost insect disappeared, leaving not a hair on it. Obviously, when a ghost insect dies, it will drop nothing, including the cheapest copper coins. That kid suffered his own consequences. He died after all. He deserved it. Witnessing Sun Yang's death process with his own eyes, King Yama felt an inexplicable sense of pleasure in his heart. After all, Sun Yang had caused him such misery, how could he not hate him? On the side, the judge's face was much more serious and deep. On the one hand, the judge is not as powerful as King Yama. Even if he is possessed by the divine power, he does not dare to take it lightly. On the other hand, his judge's pen was stolen, which was a capital crime. Even if he killed the ghost worm in his body, he might not be able to save his life. He was immediately discouraged. The outsider will not really die. That kid is so crazy, maybe he will come again. Lord Yama, please cast the God's barrier to seal the book of life and death. The judge sighed and said, if even the book of life and death is lost, I will not be able to atone for my crime even if I die 100 or 1,000 times. Hearing this, King Yama was also shocked. He had seen Sun Yang's madness. He even dared to use the life-snatching technique on himself. What else could he not do? Moreover, if the judge's pen was stolen, and even the book of life and death was stolen, wouldn't Sun Yang be even more lawless? You know, the judge's pen and the book of life and death, below the god, will be killed instantly. Even if the gods cannot be killed instantly, the judge's pen and the book of life and death will kill more than one ghost worm planted by the gods. Terrible, quite terrible. The book of life and death must not fall into Sun Yang's hands. God's barrier. King Yama stretched out his hands, and a translucent diamond-shaped barrier appeared on the book of life and death in the judge's hand. It didn't end there, and diamond-shaped barriers continued to appear on the outer layer. This is the God's barrier. The book of life and death is sealed, and ordinary thieves will never be able to steal it. Although Sun Yang is a thief god, he will definitely not be able to steal it in a short time, which is enough. Because as long as Sun Yang steals it for the first time, King Yama will kill him instantly. 7. Sikusu. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 562. Mobile reading. A whirlwind suddenly surged above the detection device 100 yards away, and the next moment, Sun Yang used the teleporter to teleport over. Yan Luo Wang and the judge naturally discovered him, but Yan Luo Wang was setting up the God's barrier and had no time to care about his existence. Seeing this, Sun Yang was immediately happy, and launched the air thief hand, shooting a black hand towards the book of life and death, but there were already several layers of barriers on the Book of Life and Death, which made the thief fail. Sun Yang has the title of the God of Thieves, and the failure rate of the thief is 0, which means the success rate is 100%. Generally speaking, there will be no failure. But the God's barrier will reduce the success rate of the thief. After the two offset each other, Sun Yang's thief's success rate is no longer 100%. This is like the hit rate. With a 100% hit rate, will there be no misses? Not necessarily, because the enemy may have a dodge rate, and when the two offset each other, there may still be misses. When the Black Hand approached the Book of Life and Death, it was shattered by the divine barrier. Sun Yang immediately realized that the Book of Life and Death was not easy to get, and turned to release telekinesis towards King Yama. Hellfire, die! King Yama finally got angry. With just a glance, Sun Yang exploded out of thin air. -999999999. Unimaginable damage emerged, and Sun Yang was directly blown to pieces. Then the flames flew away, forming an extremely vast flame that enveloped the entire King Yama palace. King Yama, the judge, countless ghost messengers, and even countless lonely ghosts were all enveloped by the black sea of fire. King Yama and the judge were gods, so they were naturally not afraid of the sea of fire. However, a group of ghost messengers and lonely ghosts rolled in the sea of fire, screaming non-stop. If Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, and others were here, they would definitely be very excited, because the sea of fire formed by the hellfire was very large, and it was not a problem to kill 100,000 ordinary players in an instant, which was equivalent to restraining Arthur. King Yama released the hellfire, automatically interrupting the god's barrier, and immediately concentrated his mind to open it again. On the other side, Nahi Bridge. This is a rare opportunity. Even if I lose 10 levels, I have to bring something back. Sun Yang used the strong invisibility and the teleporter again to teleport to the location where the detection device was set up in the King Yama Palace. Now that he has obtained the judge's pen, the attack method is indeed more strange. If the death is released on him, he will not last more than 3 seconds. But he knows that he is only over level 70, not yet in the holy domain. What will happen if it is used on the holy domain powerhouses or god-level powerhouses? Anyway, although King Yama and the judge are quite nervous, they have not lost a trace of blood so far, nor have they produced any negative status. Obviously, the god-level powerhouses are not as easy to deal with as imagined. As for the holy domain powerhouses, although they are not as powerful as the god-level powerhouses, they are definitely more powerful than ordinary people. I am afraid that the death will not be able to produce a fatal effect in a short time when it is used on the holy domain powerhouses. If he had the Book of Life and Death, it would be fine. The judge's pen and the Book of Life and Death could be used to kill the Holy Land at the same time, and directly counterattack the Japanese and Russian coalition forces. But now that the Book of Life and Death has been set up by King Yama with the divine barrier, it may not be so easy to get it. Then Sun Yang just looked forward to stealing a few useful artifacts from King Yama or the judge. The location of the detection instrument in the King of Hell's Hall. This time, Sun Yang came in a hidden way and was not discovered by King Yama or the judge. Then he began to move forward. Now he locked the target of theft on King Yama, but King Yama has perception. Even if he used a hidden way to release telekinesis, the black hand in the shadow would be discovered by King Yama, so he needed to move forward to a position where even if King Yama discovered it, he would not have time to dodge. 80 yards, 50 yards, 30 yards. That's enough. In the shadow, Sun Yang smiled and used telekinesis on King Yama. Just as he predicted, when the black hand got close to King Yama really felt it, and his eyes condensed immediately, but it was too late, because the black hand was a skill, and the speed was very fast. Catch. System, you successfully used the thief on King Yama, and obtained King Yama's foot cloth *1, and the proficiency increased by 100,000 points. King Yama's foot cloth, sacred material, high-level material, can be used to make sacred cloth armor. A foot cloth is also a sacred product. Sun Yang curled his lips, because the thief was successful. He entered the attack state, and his figure was locked by King Yama. King Yama waved his hand and shot out a black whirlwind, killing Sun Yang instantly without suspense. Sun Yang was demoted again, but he was still unwilling to give up, continued to steal, and continued to be killed. System, you have died, and your level has dropped by 1 level. The current level is 65. After dying 7-8 times in a row, Sun Yang still didn't steal the artifact. He didn't care about the level, but he only had the last teleporter in his hand. There is no teleporter left. I will steal it one last time. Whether it succeeds or not, we have to retreat. Sun Yang sighed, teleported again, and stole again. System, you successfully used the thief on King Yanluo. Zaoshan.c obtained Black Dragon Robe *1, and the proficiency increased by 1 billion. Black Dragon Robe, artifact/growable. Level 65. Equipment type, leather armor. Strength add 6500. Physical strength add 6500. Intelligence add 6500. Spirit add 6500. Agility add 3000. Light, dark, fire, ice resistance add 3000. Additional skills, Hellfire. Remarks, bound item, cannot be traded, cannot be dropped, and cannot be stolen. Remarks, this item can be upgraded, and changes with the level of the binder. Success. Unconsciously, Sun Yang was also sweating. The last teleporter was stolen by him, which immediately gave him a kind of pleasure after suppression, and a smile appeared on his face. On the other side, the black dragon robe on King Yama disappeared, revealing the white coat inside, as well as the sturdy body and arms. He lost all his dignity and was immediately furious. Just when King Yama was about to kill Sun Yang raised his hands and surrendered. Lord Yama, spare my life, I won't steal again. Before leaving hell, I want to become a messenger of hell. Hell has its own rules. If you defeat the black and white impermanence, you can become a messenger of hell. I think I should have this qualification now. King Yama was stunned when he heard the words, and was immediately furious. Spare you? What kind of player is this? You stole the judge's pen and the black dragon robe of this god. Killing you 1,000 times is not enough. How can I possibly let you go? You still want to become the messenger of hell? No way. Get out. You don't have the qualifications to become the messenger of hell. Yama roared and slapped his palm through the air. The next moment, a translucent, extremely huge palm slapped towards Sun Yang, killing him instantly. 7. Sikusu. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 563. At Nahi Bridge, Sun Yang was instantly killed by King Yama again, but he didn't take it seriously. Next, clear the sin points, leave hell, and enter the battlefield. Sun Yang raised his eyebrows slightly, sprouted wings from behind, and flew away from Nahi Bridge at an extremely fast speed. Not long after, he came to a monster area where all the lords were, and then began to slaughter them crazily. Remember the domain name of this website, Taiwan Novel Network, rightward arrow. One knife at a time, just like chopping melons and vegetables, everything is an instant kill. About 10 days ago, when facing a lord-level monster, he needed to use skills to kill him instantly, but now he directly used normal attacks to kill him instantly. -310, 0050. -309, 4020. -310-1032. A normal attack kills 3 million swords, which is so terrifying that it makes people tremble. You must know that the Chinese war zone has not yet been captured, and the three major alliances have not been destroyed. Ye Chen is the marshal, with full level of fighting spirit, 8 times the damage, and a normal attack of 50 million, which is 500,000. But now that he has lost his military rank and fighting spirit, Ye Chen's ordinary attack only costs more than 6 million. Ye Chen's power is also due to Xiao He and Blood Tree. Sun Yang has nothing but such terrifying damage, which shows how powerful he is. Moreover, he has just become the god of thieves. It can be said that he has just started. As time goes by, he will definitely have magical weapons all over his body, and his potential is limitless. A few minutes later, the Lord Monster fell over a large area, dropping countless hell blood fragments, and even some hell suits. But Sun Ban didn't bother to pick it up. The hell suit had already been harmonized and was of no use at all. Now he only needs to cleanse the sin value and brush the Lord Monsters, and the sin value will drop quickly. In less than half an hour, his sin points were cleared, and the gate of hell appeared not far away. As long as he exits the gate of hell, he can return to the mainland. I'm coming. Sun Yang bared his teeth and showed a sunny smile. Ye Chen's arrogant back seemed to appear in front of him. He walked towards it and walked out of the gate of hell. There was a flash of white light, and in that day-like illusion, he seemed to be standing next to Ye Chen, and the two stood side by side. The illusion disappeared in a blink of an eye. Sun Yang was dressed in a black dragon robe and stepped on the earth, giving him the air of a strong man. On the other side, Zhyhaxia, inside the eight-shaped reef. I don't know what kind of artifact the god of thieves has obtained. If there is a large-scale attack method, it can reverse the situation of the war and counter-attack the Japanese and Russian coalition forces. The world broadcast rang, and Ye Chen only knew that Sun Yang had the title of God of Thieves and an artifact. Little did he know that in addition to the title of God of Thieves, Sun Yang now owned 2 artifacts, the Judge's Pen and the Black Dragon Robe. Of course, although Ye Chen didn't know, he still wanted to contact Sun Yang. Just when he was about to take action, suddenly a system prompt rang in his ears. System: the player stealing the chicken but losing the rice applies to add you as a friend. Do you agree? Agree. Ye Chen smiled and agreed directly. Of course he knows that stealing the chicken but losing the rice is the ID of the god of thieves. I was just about to look for you, but I didn't expect you just found me. Ye Chen smiled and sent a voice message, how about the god of thieves? If I guessed correctly, you should have obtained an artifact. You should also be paying attention to the current battle situation. Does your artifact have the ability to crack it? Although he asked this question, he actually had a premonition in his heart. And this premonition came about when Sun Yang took the initiative to add him as a friend. No problem, you and I will join forces to fight back against the Japanese and Russian coalition forces. Sun Yang's laughter contained excitement. Okay, team up. Ye Chen directly sent out an invitation to form a team. After the latter agreed, Ye Chen directly used team teleportation to pull Sun Yang Qiang over. Chicken thief. The teleportation array flashed, and Sun Yang, dressed in black dragon robes, appeared gorgeously with white light. But it shocked everyone in the Assassin's Guild, and they roared at Sun Yang, their faces full of alert, as if they were ready to fight at any time. It's not their fault. Sun Yang did have a bad reputation in the early stage. He stole from everyone he saw and was hostile to all players from the 3 major camps in the Chinese theater. The Assassin's Guild received countless orders to assassinate Sun Yang. Many failed expeditions, and each time he was killed. Because of this, the thieves in the Killer Guild hated Sun Yang extremely. Hearing this, Ye Chen secretly laughed. He didn't know yet that it turned out that the mighty god of thieves had such a dirty title as a chicken thief. It's clear when you think about it. The thief god's ID was probably chosen casually, called stealing the chicken but losing the rice. He didn't rise in the early stage and was made fun of and fooled by others. It's normal to have such a nickname. Sun Yang had an extraordinary temperament and laughed it off. Now, although he is only level 64, he definitely has the strength to crush ordinary holy realms. Now that he has reached this height, he can no longer afford to be like ordinary people. But seeing Sun Yang's smile, the thieves seemed to be insulted, and they suddenly yelled angrily. Seeing this, Ye Chen, as the intermediary, smiled and smoothed things over. Forget it, there is no need to mention the past things again. This time the thief god will become our hero and fight against the Japanese and Russian coalition forces. Currently, Sun Yang has just won the title of God of Thieves, but his strength has not yet been demonstrated and he is not recognized by everyone. But Ye Chen knew his strength and potential, and he was directly comparable to the God of Thieves. But Ye Chen's attitude and words made everyone present stunned. If Ye Chen hadn't said this, they would definitely not believe it. So what if Sun Yang was awarded the title of God of Thieves? He was only level 64, what could he do? Only Jian Wuhan was thoughtful. At present, there was only one way to defeat the Japanese and Russian coalition forces, that is, to use large-scale skills to kill tens of thousands of Arthur's subordinates in seconds and weaken Arthur's amplification power. Let's go to Lake Guang City. Ye Chen waved his hand and the whole army was dispatched. This time, there was no need to hide from the enemy's detection device, and they directly rode the warship in a high-profile manner. In fact, the Chinese war zone has been completely captured now, and the enemy may not be willing to continue using the detection device. In less than half an hour, Ye Chen, Sun Yang, Jian Wuhan, and others arrived at Lake Guang City with their army. Just as Ye Chen expected, the enemy really disdained to detect. Otherwise, when their army invaded Lake Guang City, the enemy should have reacted long ago. Because the current Lake Guang City is not in the Chinese war zone, but belongs to the Japanese and Russian coalition forces. Massacre, force the enemy out. Ye Chen roared, and the whole army took action, starting to massacre the NPC guards and residents in Lake Guang City on a large scale. Now Lake Guang City belongs to the enemy, and the NPCs in the city are also loyal to the enemy. Kill them and kill them. Everyone has no psychological burden at all. Only by slaughtering all the NPCs in the city can the main city crystal be forced out, and further destroying the crystal can Lake Guang City be recaptured. Of course, things will definitely not go so smoothly. Now they are equivalent to attacking the enemy's main city, and the enemy will naturally react. The next moment, countless white lights flashed in the center of Lake Guang City, and Arthur, Leon, Jing Ongji, and others led the team to come. XCXS. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 564. You trash are so stubborn. You don't even have a military rank or fighting spirit. What can you do to fight me? Arthur sneered and rose into the air. 20,000 blue rays of light like soul chains extended out from his body. The other end of the blue ray of light was connected to 20,000 members among the 100,000 people. Arthur's body doubled in size, and his whole body was shrouded in dazzling blue light, like a god's palace. War Master, the ultimate mode. As Arthur's sneer sounded, Leon, Shen Gongji and others looked at Ye Chen with disdain on their faces. Leon and Jingji are marshals, with full level of fighting spirit, which increases their damage and defense 8 times. And now that Ye Chen has lost his military rank and fighting spirit, his combat effectiveness may not be as good as the two of them, let alone Arthur in ultimate mode. Give up, Yagami. If you delete your account now, I promise not to deal with you players in the Chinese theater. Jingji also jumped into the air and suddenly smiled. She seemed to be saying this to Ye Chen, but in fact she was saying to all Chinese players that if Ye Chen is handed over, the Japanese and Russian coalition forces and the Chinese theater will be reconciled. Although they will not give up the captured main city, at least they will not take action against them. In this way, you can at least continue to play in this dream world. This is what Jingguai means, a dirty trick. But obviously, her move won't work, because this time Yuchen brought people here to fight back. How about this, woman, kneel down and beg me, and I promise not to deal with the Japanese and Russian war zones. Sun Yang stepped forward and said with a sneer. The black dragon robe moved automatically in the wind, making the black dragon seem to come to life, turning clouds and rain in the robes. Just standing there, Sun Yang felt like he was overlooking the world. Before Jingguji could react, Arthur and Leon snorted coldly. Arthur rushed out, while Leon still chanted a spell, and the battle broke out. Hellfire! However, no matter how fast Arthur and Leon are, they are not as fast as Sun Yang's eyes. Sun Yang's eyes were widened, with black flames dancing in his eyes. In the next moment, one of the 100,000 enemy soldiers exploded into powder for no apparent reason. Then, the black fire swept across, spreading crazily in all directions, forming a huge sea of black fire. 100,000 enemies are in the Black Sea of Fire, occupying less than 1/10 of the area of the Black Sea of Fire. 100,000. 100,000. 100,000. 100,000. 100,000. 100,000 injuries appeared at the same time, densely packed. This scene is breathtaking. Seconds. With one move, the enemy's 100,000 strong army was instantly defeated. Above the sky, the dazzling blue light around Arthur disappeared, and his swollen body quickly returned to its original shape like an air leak. His face was covered with cold sweat, and he looked at the huge black sea of fire and then at Sun Yang, with a look of astonishment on his face. Leon gasped in fright, the rhythm of his chanting was interrupted, and he failed to cast the spell. But now he couldn't care anymore, he just looked at Sun Yang stupidly, dumbfounded. Jingguji and all the powerful men from the Holy Realm looked at the scene in front of them and were shocked. They also opened their mouths and were speechless. Not only them, but also Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, and others were shocked. Although Sun Yang came over, they already had some premonitions in their minds, thinking that Sun Yang's artifact had a wide range of skills, enough to kill tens of thousands of enemy troops in an instant and restrain Arthur's ability. Who would have thought that the scope of this hellfire is so huge? You know, even if the Sea of Fire is at full level, its maximum range is only a few hundred yards. If the damage is enough, it can kill up to 1,000 people in one go. But the range of this hellfire is probably more than 10,000 yards, it can kill an army of 100,000 people in less than 1/10 of the range. This is too terrifying. Oh my god, this chicken thief is actually so powerful? He can kill 100,000 people in one move. Not even Night God can do it. The woman Jingguji turned into a giant and killed hundreds of thousands in one move. Of course, this is nothing. You didn't see the sea of black fire released by the chicken thief. She only used less than 1/10 of the range to kill 10 in seconds. 10,000 people? In other words, he can kill up to a few million people in one instant. It's just crazy. 666,666. Skills are skills, and the main thing is damage. So the Black Sea of Fire is dark, right? A group attack of 100,000 people per second is also terrifying. 100,000 group attacks per second is really scary. The Sea of Fire released by ordinary fire spells only has a few hundred group attacks per second. Without comparison, there is no harm. This chicken thief has become too scary now. The thieves in the killer guild whispered to each other and were in awe of Sun Yang for a moment. The dream world is still about strength. Sun Yang has risen now and has such terrifying strength, which is naturally admirable. After a few seconds, the battlefield became slightly quieter. Arthur and others stood in the air. Although they were caught off guard by Sun Yang's move, there was not much fear in their expressions. So what if Arthur exits ultimate mode? He is still a martial with full fighting spirit. Leon, Shen Gongji, and a group of powerful men from the Holy Realm are also martials, and their combat power is very powerful. As for the Chinese theater, there are only two sanctuaries, Yuchen and Jianwuhan, and they have lost their military ranks, so what? Arthur looked down at Sun Yang, shook his head and said teasingly, "You are the one who got the title of the God of Thieves. Well, you have good potential, but it's a pity that you were born in China. Now the Chinese war zone exists in name only and has become our territory. You will never have a military rank, no fighting spirit, and it is almost impossible to really rise. If you were born in other countries, you might still have a certain status." Arthur had a tone of pointing out the world, as if he, Arthur, was the greatest in the world. Sun Yang looked down on him and looked at Arthur with pity. Just when he was about to use the judge's pen, he found that Ye Chen had taken the lead. Ye Chen took out a black token and summoned the Abyss Demon again. As soon as the Abyss Demon came out, it was directly suspended in the air, staring at Arthur with a murderous look on his face. About 5 days ago, Arthur killed him in seconds with the joint anti-dragon slaying, and he always remembered this grudge. At the beginning, Arthur was in the ultimate mode of war domination, and the damage was doubled by 200 times. Now, Arthur is only the commander of more than 20 people including Leon and Princess Jingong, and there is not much amplification power at all. It's time for revenge. I will let you taste the fear of being dominated by power. The Abyss Demon screamed, and the afterimage behind him flashed. In the blink of an eye, it was close to Arthur. Arthur was stunned immediately. He remembered that Ye Chen was the messenger of hell and had a super holy level hell monster assistant. Reel in. Seeing the Abyss Demon rushing violently, Arthur immediately reeled in the line and fled at a speed second only to teleportation, making the Abyss Demon's demon rush miss. But he didn't know that the demon rush didn't work. The Abyss Demon failed to hit, sneered, and rushed out again like lightning. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 565. The Abyss Demon naturally knew Arthur's ability, and at this moment he was not targeting Arthur, but rushed directly towards Leon, Jingongji, and others. Devil's Speed. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The Abyss Demon moved like lightning, piercing through everyone's body again and again, causing everyone to fall into a state of cyclic stiffness. The Abyss Demon also followed Ye Chen to join the Chinese war zone, but now the Chinese war zone is in name only, the three major alliances were blown up, and he also lost his rank. Without full-level fighting spirit, the Abyss Demon's damage is only 1 billion, and the enemies are all martials, and full-level fighting spirit increases defense by 8 times. The Abyss Demon can only hit less than 200 million HP per person at a time, but fortunately it makes the enemy stiff and unable to move. And he is a demon running fast, piercing through more than 10 times in a second. 1 second later, Leon, Jingongji and others were all killed, leaving only Arthur. Take out the heart. Die. The Abyss Demon roared, and his body rioted, and in an instant he came to Arthur. Arthur's subordinates were all killed, and he had no way to reel in his troops. His basic speed was far inferior to that of the Abyss Demon, and he could not dodge at this moment. With a muffled bang, the Abyss Demon's black hand directly pierced Arthur's chest, and then he actually took out a bright red heart. The heart was separated from the body, but it was still alive and beating. The Abyss Demon had a hideous smile on his face and crushed the heart with his bare hands. -520-089-2201. The terrible damage emerged, and Arthur died, falling like a falling meteor. So far, in this battle, Ye Chen and Sun Yang defeated the Japanese and Russian coalition forces on behalf of the Chinese theater. Attack the city quickly, and take back the Thunder Light City as quickly as possible, Ye Chen roared, and the whole army took action and continued to slaughter all the NPCs in the city. There was no way, this Thunder Light City was now the territory of the Japanese and Russian coalition forces. As long as they are willing, they can bring more troops at any time. And Ye Chen also asked, Sun Yang's hellfire lasts only 3 seconds, but the cooling time is as long as 10 minutes. In other words, if you want to defeat the Japanese and Russian coalition forces, you have to wait for this 10-minute cooling time every time. And although the Abyss Demon is powerful, it is easy to be targeted. Once dead, it cannot be resurrected to participate in the war within 24 hours. So Ye Chen must first fight back from a main city, re-establish the Light Alliance, and directly become a lieutenant general. In that way, even without the Abyss Demon, he can kill Arthur in non-ultimate mode, as well as Leon, Jing Ongji, and others. At Ye Chen's command, the army began to move. And Sun Yang changed his clothes and took out the judge's pen, using the sky as paper, writing quickly. Every time he wrote, a golden name would appear on the sky, and it would disappear in the next moment. Arthur, Leon, Jing Ongji. Obviously, every time Sun Yang wrote, he would plant a ghost insect in the corresponding person's body. On the side, Ye Chen and Jian Wuhan looked at Sun Yang's actions in amazement, looked at each other, and couldn't help asking curiously, "What are you doing?" Sun Yang smiled, and did not hide it. He directly posted the attributes of the judge's pen for them to watch. With the Book of Life and Death, you can kill the strong in the Holy Domain in seconds. Awesome, God of Thief, do you have the Book of Life and Death? Jian Wuhan asked in shock. I don't have the Book of Life and Death. Sun Yang looked regretful. Of course, he also wanted the Book of Life and Death. In that case, he could kill anyone in seconds, wouldn't he be invincible? Since the launch of Dream World, even the title kings of major war zones have just been promoted to the Holy Domain, and there is still a long way to go before they become gods. If Sun Yang has both the Judge's Pen and the Book of Life and Death, he will be invincible. He doesn't even need to see you. He can just write your name and kill you in seconds. If this really happens, even John and his ilk will have to kneel. Haha, fortunately not, otherwise you will directly destroy the balance of the game. Jian Wuhan shook his head and laughed. Sun Yang nodded, and stopped talking about this topic. He said, I have tried the Judge's Pen's death spell myself. I can't last more than 3 seconds with the ghost bug. But I'm only level 60, so I don't know how effective it is against a Saint Domain powerhouse. Let me try. Ye Chen showed great interest. Real powerhouses don't usually care about their levels. What's more, Saint Domain powerhouses don't lose levels when they die, but only a crack in their sainthood. And Ye Chen has a passive resurrection, so he doesn't care even more. Well, that's what I meant. Sun Yang grinned and wrote the word Ye Chen directly on the sky. Although he had already used death spell on Arthur, Leon, and Goddess of the Palace, the other party was not here after all, so he couldn't directly understand the damage that the ghost bug could do to Saint Domain powerhouses. And Ye Chen was here, and he was a Saint Domain powerhouse, so it was the most direct way to use it on him. After 3 full seconds, Ye Chen's face was normal, and he didn't feel anything unusual. Sun Yang's eyes narrowed, thinking that it was indeed the case. Saint Domain experts also had certain antibodies to ghost insects. After a full minute, Ye Chen felt a slight pain in his abdomen. -100. The small damage showed how much resistance Saint Domain experts had to ghost insects. You should know that Sun Yang lost 10,000 blood points in the first second. Of course, ghost insects will grow by devouring flesh and blood and internal organs, and the damage will naturally increase. Not to mention Saint Domain experts, even gods, if left alone, will die sooner or later. At the same time, Ye Chen also had the first negative state, with fire all over his body, which was a burn. -1. Another burn appeared. Ye Chen smiled slightly. This is normal, his current Fire Kong is extremely powerful. Under normal circumstances, he will not be burned. It's just because this ghost worm is in the body, otherwise, Ye Chen will not be burned at all. Because the Fire Kong is high. Zayashian.com. Although the burn occurred, it could not break the defense, but only forced a little blood reduction. Gradually, the damage of the ghost worm became higher and higher. The bite damage increased from 100 to 200, 300, 400. The negative states on Ye Chen's body also accumulated more and more: burns, bleeding, poisoning, freezing, dizziness, paralysis, armor breaking, blindness, confusion. Negative states such as dizziness, paralysis, armor breaking, blindness, etc., although they will not deduct blood, they are very annoying. And they are superimposed and coexist at the same time. Ye Chen can't move at all. But burns, bleeding, poisoning, freezing, are harmful, and as the ghost worm grows, the damage is getting bigger and bigger. Ba Wang has high resistance in all aspects. Now that he has been hit by the ghost bug, he is so miserable. At this pace, he can't last 3 minutes. Ye Chen's resistance is indeed very high, but it is limited to attribute resistance. He has little resistance to dizziness and paralysis. He is either dizzy or paralyzed at the moment. He can't move, so he can't speak. Jian Wuhan glanced at him, calculated a little, and said so. Hearing this, Sun Yang also nodded secretly. Ye Chen couldn't last more than 3 minutes, so Arthur, Leon, and Jing Ongji naturally couldn't last more than 3 minutes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, Ba Wang Shi-san. Chapter 566. Sun Yang waved the judge's pen in his hand, looking somewhat proud. Killing a Saint Domain strongman in 3 minutes, he can target Arthur, Leon, and Goddess of the Palace hundreds of times a day. Although the opponent has a Saint Grid, after dying 100 times, the Saint Grid will be broken and die, and he will drop a level. The opponent continues to devour the Saint Grid and can withstand another 100 times. But after a few days, the opponent will drop back to level 78 and will not be able to devour the Saint Grid. When that time comes, Sun Yang will kill them in 3 seconds. Puff. Suddenly, Sun Yang stabbed out with a knife, dealing more than 3 million damage, and directly killed Ye Chen instantly. Normally speaking, Ye Chen's defense is against the sky, and Sun Yang's 3 million damage may not be able to break his defense, but now among Ye Chen's various negative states, there is a broken armor, which makes him lose all defense. Sun Yang's attack is directly real damage. Well, you are really decisive on the side. Jian Wuhan looked at the scene of Sun Yang killing Ye Chen instantly, and his mouth twitched. I just ended his pain. Sun Yang shook his head indifferently. Now Ye Chen was hit by the ghost bug, and he would die sooner or later. He just resurrected Ye Chen as quickly as possible. Jian Wuhan nodded. He naturally knew this truth. At the same time, he couldn't help but look at Sun Yang deeply. He was more surprised by Sun Yang's damage. That's right, Ye Chen's armor was broken and he had no defense, but Sun Yang just used ordinary attacks. One knife was 3 million, which was a bit explosive. Now everyone has no military rank and no fighting spirit. Jian Wuhan's ordinary attack is only 1 million per knife. The gap is a bit big. And Jian Wuhan is level 83, a strong man in the holy domain, while Sun Yang is only level 64. It can be imagined how terrifying Sun Yang's foundation is, and his future potential is simply limitless. Resurrection. The next second, Ye Chen resurrected and looked at Sun Yang with a face full of shock. Of course, he didn't care that Sun Yang stabbed him, but was mainly shocked by the power of the ghost bug. The judge's pen is really too powerful, it's simply against the sky. Although there is no book of life and death, the judge's pen can kill ordinary people in 3 seconds. Now even the Saint Domain strongmen can only last for 3 minutes. How can this be? If the artifacts are also divided into levels, then the judge's pen is definitely the top level, the treasure of hell. Such a treasure, Sun Yang said to steal it, is it really okay? Ye Chen is a little worried now. He believes that King Yama will definitely not give up. Even if he doesn't take action, he will definitely send strong men to attack Sun Yang. Maybe it's a god-level strongman. In such a huge hell, if you say that there are only 2 god-level strongmen, King Yama and Judge, no one will believe it. On the other side, hell. Just as Ye Chen worried, the whole hell is now turned upside down and in a mess. It's over, that bastard really killed someone with the judge's pen. The judge held the book of life and death, which was set up with a divine barrier by King Yama, and his face was covered with cold sweat. These cold sweats were because Sun Yang had caused a big disaster, and he had to take the blame for this disaster. On the other hand, he could already feel the ghost bugs running around in his body. Although he had not lost blood or had any negative status, he was still experiencing waves of pain in his abdomen. On the side, King Yama's divine body was powerful, and he was not as unbearable as him, but he also frowned. If this continues, the trouble that bastard boy will cause will only get bigger and bigger, and sooner or later it will alarm the big shots in the god realm. Yan Luoyang looked embarrassed and disgusted with the judge. At this point, we can only ask Luosha and Azura to take action and take back the judge's pen. No, Lord Yan Wang, you also know that those outsiders are blessed by heaven. Not only are they immortal, but once they get the artifact, they are automatically bound. Even if Luosha and others take action and kill that kid like a pig or a dog, they can't bring back the judge's pen, the judge said bitterly. What should I do? Hearing this, Yan Luoyang collapsed in his chair. Since this matter has happened, as the king of hell, he must take the blame. If the matter is not resolved for a long time, not only will he lose his official hat, he may also lose his head and be doomed. Now we can only go to the god's domain and take the initiative to admit our mistakes. Maybe we will be punished less severely, and those big shots are so powerful that they may be able to get the judge's pen back, the judge sighed and said with a wry smile. Well, that's the only way, King Yama nodded. Just as King Yama and the judge were discussing countermeasures in hell, the Thunder Light City started another war. Arthur was infected with a ghost bug, but the ultimate mode of the War Master produced a strong resistance, and the ghost bug could not do anything to him for a while. But he knew the horror of the ghost bug, but he didn't know the details of the ghost bug and the judge's pen. He immediately led his army to come and prepare to blast Sun Yang into pieces, thinking that he could crack the ghost bug. When the war broke out, Ye Chen naturally threw away the worries in his heart and fought with all his strength. This time, Arthur did not bring Liang and Shen Gongji, but only led an army of 100,000. Before the hellfire cooled down, Arthur in the ultimate mode fought back, and after the hellfire cooled down, Ye Chen, Sun Yang and others fought back. The war lasted for a full day, 24 hours, in this cycle. Sun Yang's level dropped from 64 to 51. He used a large number of deaths to refresh the cooldown, and this was the result of Ye Chen asking Xiaoro and the priest who could resurrect in the throne to help. Otherwise, Sun Yang's level would continue to drop. Finally, with the joint efforts of Ye Chen, Sun Yang, the Abyss Demon, and everyone else, Thunder Light City was defeated. Fortunately, we won. If we continue to fight, my damage will not be enough. Sun Yang smiled brightly, and he didn't seem to mind his level drop at all. This is normal. With his strength, it is too easy to upgrade. Well, it's a bit of luck. Ye Chen smiled. In the final stage of the war, a large number of Chinese players emerged in Thunder Light City to help slaughter the NPCs in the city and finally force out the crystal. Otherwise, this war would be far from over. And the more Sun Yang dropped, the less damage he suffered. If the war continued, the Chinese war zone might fail again. After taking back Thunder Light City, Ye Chen rebuilt it in the city as soon as possible. System, you are established, and you have obtained the rank of Lieutenant General, and you have the right to promote 5 Major Generals, 10 Colonels, 100 Lieutenant Colonels. System, congratulations on your promotion to Lieutenant General, receiving the Lieutenant General Medal, and receiving the daily rank gift package. Ye Chen smiled as the system prompt came to his ears. Lieutenant General is level 5 fighting spirit, triple damage, triple defense. This has restored some of his combat power. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 567. Start a counterattack and regain lost ground. Ye Chen gave an order, and all members set off from the Light Camp and Thunder City to continue attacking other main cities. It took 3 full days to fight back all the 3 major camps in the Chinese theater and all the main cities. In the Light Camp, Ye Chen established the Light Alliance. In the Dark Camp, Sun Yang established a Dark Alliance. In the Neutral Camp, Jian Wuhan established a Neutral Alliance. At this point, 80% of the vitality of the Chinese war zone has been restored, and Sun Yang's reputation as the god of thieves has resounded throughout the country and even the world. When everyone sees him, they will respectfully call him the god of thieves. Sun Yang also felt satisfied as he had never experienced before. Holding a judge's pen and wearing a black dragon robe, his scenery was as good as Ye Chen's. What to do next? Counterattack Japan and Russia. Although we won this wave, our military rank did not rise much. You know, we were both marshals before Jian Wuhan looked at Ye Chen and asked. Ye Chen shook his head and said, it is difficult to fight back. This wave of our home court has countless supports and troops. If we go overseas to fight back, we may not be able to beat Arthur. More importantly, the thief god now only has at level 51, his damage is gradually not enough, so let's take it slow. Yes, I agree. If I fight back, it will be another battle of attrition. If I continue to fall at my current level, the damage will not be enough. Hellfire cannot cause an instant kill, and it will definitely not be able to defeat Arthur. Sun Yang raised the judge's pen in his hand and said with a smile, don't worry, even if I don't fight back now, I will still use the judge's pen to continue to discuss the powerful saints like Arthur, Leon, and Shen Gongji. After some discussion, the 3 finally reached a consensus, now seek stability. Regarding the counterattack against the Japanese and Russian coalition forces, there is no rush. Next, Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, and Abyss Demon led the team and took Sun Yang, Shang Wang, Lan Yan, Tank, and others to Zhihixia to upgrade. 3 strong men from the sanctuary led the team to upgrade, and they were very efficient. King Shang, Lan Yan, and others have already reached level 78, and they are only one step away from reaching level 79, Devouring Saint and being promoted to the Holy Realm. Of course, this level requires a lot of experience, so it cannot be upgraded for the time being. But Sun Yang was only level 51. Every time Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, and Abyss Demon killed a batch of monsters, his experience bar suddenly rolled forward 1 space. In less than an hour, he actually rose to 1 level and reached level 52. The monster spawning and upgrading continued, and suddenly, the world shook. Ye Chen and others clearly felt a strong pressure coming from the sky. After a while, a group of strong men with majestic auras came walking on the clouds. Everyone quickly focused their attention and used their discernment to see through those people, but their eyes were filled with question marks and not even a name could be seen. Even the most recognizable Ye Chen couldn't figure out why. Everyone looked at each other and couldn't help but exclaimed, magic weapon. Those people in the sky are all warriors wearing silver armor and holding spears in their hands, but even the strong men in the Holy Realm cannot discern the slightest bit. The other party is definitely a god, or at least a clone of a god. But since the other party is a god, What is he doing to him? Everyone looked at the group of divine soldiers in the sky, feeling frightened and confused about the situation. Only Ye Chen and Sun Yang were shocked. Ye Chen had already had a premonition, and as the person involved, Sun Yang, although he was very ambitious, did not consider it so much at the time. But now that the magic weapon has arrived, how could he still not understand the benefits and risks of stealing the judge's pen? Who is this judge-stealing judge? The eyes of all the divine soldiers were indifferent, as if they did not take Ye Chen and the others seriously at all. The leader, holding a black spear, asked coldly. It's me. Sun Yang can be considered responsible. There are more than one magic soldiers coming at this moment. With their little fighting power, they are no match for them anyway. Because of this, Sun Yang took the initiative to stand up and admit it so as not to implicate others. There is a bottle of repulsive water here. You can use it to unbind the judge's pen so that I can take it back for a report. The leader of the divine soldiers took out a small bottle from his hands and threw it towards Sun Yang. Sun Yang stepped forward and grabbed it, and everyone couldn't help but curiously gathered around to watch the special effect of repelling water. Repellent water, sacred item/consumable item, can be unbound, one-time use item. Just one glance, and everyone couldn't help but gasp. This is the first time I have seen a god-level consumable, and although the effect is not practical, it is also powerful. You know, any artifact is bound to it when you get it. Especially if a thief steals an artifact, but it is not something he can use, he just smashes it into his hand. And this repellent water can actually unbind. Of course, bringing back the judge's pen is just one of our tasks. Mortal, you stole the judge's pen and committed a heinous crime. You now have two choices. First, be killed by us and return to level 0. Second, accept the task. Take the initiative to drop back to level 0, the leader of the magic weapon said indifferently, startling everyone who was shocked by the effect of repelling water. First, get killed and return to level 0. Second, take the initiative to drop back to level 0. Although these are two choices, the results are the same. God's majesty is indeed powerful. At this time, everyone was looking at Sun Yang to see how he would choose. In fact, there is a third option, which is to not compromise, not to give in, and to fight these magic soldiers until the end. Sun Yang exhaled a breath and said with a wry smile, I accept the mission and am willing to take the initiative to drop back to level 0. He is not stupid. The opponent is a god. How can he fight? Since we can't win anyway, we might as well compromise quickly, downgrade to level 0, and start over. Mortal, you are still sensible. The head of the magic army sneered and issued a task to Sun Yang. Sun Yang just accepted it, and black light flashed on his body, and soon he was downgraded to level 0. At the same time, Sun Yang sprinkled the repellent water on the judge's pen, and the next moment, the judge's pen automatically broke away from his hand and stood in the air. Swish! The head of the magic army stretched out his hand and grabbed it, and the judge's pen flew straight into his hand. Mortal, you are so sensible, saving us some time. I will give you a piece of advice. The head of the divine soldiers smiled coldly. This matter is not over yet. King Yama will not let it go, because he has also been severely punished by the Emperor of God, and he will definitely send people to deal with you. You wish yourself good luck. After the last word, the figures of the divine soldiers became illusory and ethereal, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The divine power disappeared, and the sky returned to calm again, as if they had never been there. But Sun Yang was downgraded to level 0 at this moment, and the judge's pen was gone, which fully proved that it was not an illusion just now, but a real thing. Damn, that's a god. It's so terrifying. That kind of divine power scared me so much that I dared not speak, Tank said with cold sweat on his face. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 568. Brother, your choice is right. Ye Chen patted Sun Yang on the shoulder and said. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Hearing this, Jian Wuhan and others nodded secretly. They had previously been worried about Sun Yang, fearing that this kid would fight the magic weapon in an impulsive manner. At that time, there would really be no end. Sun Yang shrugged and forced a smile. Now I just hope that the Japanese and Russian coalition forces will not take the opportunity to attack, otherwise I will have no choice. Not necessarily. Ye Chen shook his head and said, only those of us who were present know what happened before. Don't worry, they are all trustworthy people, and there is no traitor. Therefore, the Japanese and Russian coalition forces cannot know that you have been downgraded to level 0. Besides, although you are level 0 now, but we are with you, you will definitely upgrade quickly. Ye Chen eliminated Sun Yang's concerns with just a few words. Next, everyone treated the previous events as if nothing had happened, and threw themselves into the process of leveling up by killing monsters again. Just as Ye Chen said, Sun Yang leveled up very quickly. Ye Chen killed a group of national elite monsters in 1 second, and Sun Yang gained a lot of experience at once. White light flashed continuously, and he directly leveled up by 10 levels. The so-called rocket leveling is just like this. Another hour passed, and Sun Yang went from level 0 to level 32 directly. Seeing Sun Yang level up so quickly, everyone gradually relaxed their nervous nerves. At this pace, you can reach level 60 in 1 day. Ye Chen smiled, went down in a sea of fire, and killed another wave in 1 second, and Sun Yang's experience value suddenly soared. His efficiency in killing was too fast, but the monsters could not keep up with the refresh, otherwise Sun Yang would definitely level up faster. Suddenly, Ye Chen heard a system prompt in his ears. System, you have triggered the task The Wrath of King Yama. The task goal, kill stealing chickens and losing rice 100 times, the task reward, 1 billion experience points 5 gold coins, 1 skill point. Do you accept it? Tisk tisk, it seems that the King of Hell is really angry this time, even the skill point is regarded as the task reward. Ye Chen's mouth twitched, but he did not accept this task. For a few skill points, he didn't have to kill Sun Yang 100 times. Not only did he not accept it, he would also help Sun Yang and find a way to make King Yama cancel this task. Obviously, the reason why Ye Chen was able to trigger this task was because he was a messenger of hell. Jian Wuhan and others did not trigger this task. But among the messengers of hell, there are many god-level strongmen. If Ye Chen does not settle this matter, those god-level strongmen in hell will definitely take action against Sun Yang. Then it will be difficult for Sun Yang to rise, and if Sun Yang does not rise, no one in the entire Chinese war zone will be able to restrain Arthur. At that time, it will be over again. This is all invisible chain. Jian Wuhan, Abyss Demon, you lead the team to upgrade next. I will go to hell, Ye Chen said concisely, stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. The space in front flashed, and the gate of hell appeared out of thin air. The messenger of hell can enter and exit hell freely. The next moment, Ye Chen entered the gate of hell and disappeared. Sun Yang glanced at the place where the gate of hell disappeared. With his current strength, he naturally knew that Ye Chen went to hell to help him this time. In addition to gratitude, he was also worried. He could fully imagine the rage of King Yama and the judge. Ye Chen might not be able to settle the matter this time, but might also get himself involved. Hell! A flash of white light appeared, and Ye Chen appeared on the Nahi bridge. Confused people, drink the hot soup, Meng Po said mysteriously. No. Ye Chen refused decisively, soared into the air, and flew quickly towards the King of Hell's palace. At this time, the King of Hell's palace returned to peace. Only the ox-headed and horse-faced gods were guarding outside the palace. When the two saw Ye Chen, they immediately respectfully gave way and said, Lord Messenger of Hell. Ye Chen nodded and pushed the door open. Soon he came to the platform and met King Yama and the judge. King Yama's black face turned a little blue. In fact, with his divine power, he would be able to refine the ghost worms in his body sooner or later, but it was obvious that before that, he would suffer from the torture of the ghost worms. On the side, the judge was even more unbearable. His divine power was far inferior to King Yama. If he did not rely on external forces, he might be bitten to death by the ghost worms. Yechen, why did you come here without accepting my mission? King Yama stared at Yechen and snorted coldly. 2 days ago, he went to the god's domain with the judge, informed the powerful people in the god's domain that the judge's pen had been taken away, and took the initiative to admit his mistakes. Obviously, they were punished, and those powerful people with means that could reach the heavens and the earth did not help them get rid of the ghost insects. Because of this, they were extremely depressed. Lord Yama, Judge, I can help you to get rid of the ghost insects. I just hope that Lord Yama can show some leniency and cancel the mission, Yechen said with a smile. King Yama was startled when he heard this, and said, Why, do you have a relationship with that bastard boy? Forget it, if you can really get rid of the ghost insects for us, then cancel the mission. Yeah, brother Yechen, if you really have the means to get rid of the ghost insects, we can't thank you enough. The judge seemed to have grabbed a life-saving straw, regardless of the cold sweat on his face due to the pain, and said to Yechen eagerly. Haha, good. Yechen laughed loudly and stretched out his hand to make a gesture to King Yama to stand up. King Yama did not doubt him and stood up directly. His burly body was about 3 meters tall. Yechen jumped up and stood steadily on the table in front of King Yama. The 2 ghost messengers beside him were immediately shocked. Yechen actually committed a crime of disobedience and stood on King Yama's table. This is a capital crime. Now is a special period, so they really turned a blind eye. Yechen stood on the long table, while King Yama stood on the ground. However, even so, King Yama was still a little taller. His body was too tall, but it was convenient for Yechen. Yechen closed his eyes to perceive, and the only 2 points of perception came in handy at this moment. After he closed his eyes, he lost his vision, but he could perceive everything within a radius of 1 meter, including the ghost insects in King Yama's body that were constantly eating away his flesh and internal organs. The hand of hell. Yechen's palm extended, as if piercing through space, and the broken space formed a black hole. The palm stabbed into the black hole, and the end that emerged turned into a hideous demon arm. When the demon arm touched King Yama's body, it was as if ripples appeared on the calm water surface. The demon arm did not hurt King Yama at all, but reached into his body. Yechen had already sensed the location of the ghost worm, and succeeded at once. With a puff, Yechen pulled out a black worm that was as long as a chopstick, as thick as a thigh, with sharp teeth and a hideous face, from King Yama's body. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 569. Tsitsize. The fierce ghost worm was caught out of King Yama's body, emitting a sinister scream and struggling frantically in Yechen's hands. It was a pity that Yechen's hands, like iron pliers, held it tightly and did not allow it to break free. Yechen looked at the ghost worm in his hand, and his face was full of black lines. He threw it to the ground with extreme disgust. With a bang, the ghost worm fell to the ground, screaming again, still shaking and struggling wildly. Without a flesh and blood container, the ghost worm will be very painful until death. But this ghost worm has been fattened up and has strong vitality. Judging from the strength of its shaking and struggling, it is probably not easy to die in a short time. King Yama's body relaxed, and he felt refreshed for a long time. With a pair of angry eyes, he glanced at the struggling ghost worm on the ground. You know, A newborn ghost worm is only the size of a fingernail, but this ghost worm is as long as a chopstick and as thick as a thigh, and, in its open mouth, there are actually pieces of meat and blood left. Gradually, King Yama's brows furrowed in anger, forming a character. He roared out of control, and with one palm, he slapped out black fire, instantly burning the ghost bug into ashes. On the other side, Xiao He simultaneously used the hand of hell to catch the ghost bug in the judge's body. The judge also lost control and attacked frantically, beating the ghost bug to pieces. Hand of hell, the highest skill in hell, I didn't expect it to be developed by you. Not bad, you are a teachable kid. After a long breath, King Yama smiled for the first time in a long time. The green on his black face also disappeared. King Yama's divine body was powerful, and he was possessed by the divine power. At this moment, the ghost bug was gone, and he instantly recovered. On the side, although the judge was sweating all over his face and his breath was a little chaotic, he also showed a bright smile. He was the one who was truly saved. King Yama's divine body was powerful. Even without Ye Chen's help, he would refine the ghost bug sooner or later, and at most he would suffer during the period. If he hadn't had Ye Chen's help, he would have died sooner or later. The reason why the mighty in the divine realm didn't help them get rid of the ghost bug was obviously intentional, because they made a mistake and should have been punished. And the judge lost the judge's pen with his own hands, which was a capital crime. Because of this, the judge was once discouraged, but fortunately Ye Chen rescued him and saved his life. Ye Chen, if you help us get rid of the ghost bug, I will keep my promise and cancel the task. King Yama looked at Ye Chen and smiled slightly, saying, but this little thing is really hard to express my gratitude. I just happen to have a treasure that I can't use, so I'll give it to you. Oh! Ye Chen had already come down from the table, and when he heard that there was a treasure, he was immediately happy. What kind of person is King Yama? He said it was a treasure, so it must be extraordinary. Next, King Yama took a ring from the index finger of his left hand. As soon as he took it off, the ring flashed with colorful rays of light. Artifact. Ye Chen knew it when he saw the light, because only artifacts can have colorful rays of light. Burning Heart Ring, artifact / growable. Level 83. Strength add 8300. Physical strength add 8300. Intelligence add 8300. Spirit add 8300. Agility add 4150. Fire attribute enhancement add 2000. Fire attribute resistance add 6000. Special effect, when attacking a target with fire attribute, the flame will burn the enemy's heart and add 100% fire damage. Special effect, when attacking, there is a 90% chance to add a burn status to the target. Note, bound item, cannot be traded, cannot be dropped, and cannot be stolen. Hiss! What a powerful artifact! Ye Chen looked at the attributes of the Burning Heart Ring and couldn't help but gasp. He had never seen a few artifacts in his life, and each one was more powerful than the other. Jian Wuhan's withered great sword, Sun Yang's black dragon robe, and then this Burning Heart Ring, it's simply terrifying. Although before the Burning Heart Ring, he had another artifact, Dragon Pattern. But Dragon Pattern is a fashion skin, and the additional skill Tyrant Dragon Pattern is very powerful, but it doesn't have much foundation. And this Burning Heart Ring, the basics are terrifying. He now has a set of holy weapon suits, Gothic suits, but one piece can't add 1000 points of strength, physical strength, intelligence, etc. And this Burning Heart Ring is almost comparable to a Gothic set. There are also special effects. Simply put, the damage is doubled, plus a 90% chance of burns. Ye Chen decisively replaced the Gothic ring and put on the Burning Heart Ring. All of a sudden, the attributes skyrocketed. Night God, ID. Race, human. Profession, Assassin. Warzone, China. Faction, Light. Title, Great Good Man, Perceiver, Hidden Weapon Master, Source of Evil, Thief, Identifier, National Leader, Hell Messenger, Butcher. Medals, Medal of Courage, Lieutenant General Medal. Level, 83. HP, 310050 ///310050. MP, 231000 ////23100. Strength, 49,005. Asterisk Physical Attack, 5209052390. Asterisk Fire Attribute Enhancement, 8235. Asterisk Fire Attribute Resistance, 28,850. Asterisk Perception, 2. Asterisk Critical Hit Rate add 100%. Attack Speed 50%. Movement Speed 80%. Skills, LV25 Stun, LV29 Stab, LV35 Thief, LV21 Lockpicking, Stealth, Sprint, LV27 Throat Slitting, LV29 Bleeding, LV28 Wind Step, LV27 Spinning Stab, LV25 Disarm Trap. Rare Skills, LV28 Bleeding, LV36 Hidden Weapon Mastery, LV25 Shadow Attack, LV27 Stun Dart, Shadow Escape, LV27 Boomerang, Bloodblade, Shadow Thorn, Flying Thunder God, Strong Hidden, LV16 7 Star Kill, LV19000 Needle Slaughter. Equipment Additional Skills, Goodwill Aura, War Cry, Flying, LV5 Fighting Spirit. Special Skills, LV27 Poisoning, LV58 Forging, Blood Eyes, LV30 Breaking Martial Arts, LV28 Advanced Dart Production Drawings, LV100 Power Attack, Team Teleport, Self-Recovery, Resurrection, Hand of Hell, LV25 Fire Hymn, LV23 Fire Armor, Zayanshancom LV21 Armor Hardening, Tyrant Dragon Mark, Sand Clone. Assassin Skill Tree, Final Blow, LV15 Murderous Aura, LV15 Killing Mark. Cross-Class Skill, LV19C. Talent, Firm Will, Passive. Changed the Gothic Ring, but Yechen still has the special effects of the Gothic 3-piece set and the 7-piece set. It's just that the 10% crit and dodge rate of the 9-piece set, as well as the Stepping Cloud special effect are missing. Yechen's crit itself exceeds 100%, so he doesn't need this 10% crit rate addition at all, and the dodge rate doesn't matter, and the Stepping Cloud special effect doesn't matter even more. But the attributes have increased significantly. After all, there is the amplification power of the blood tree. Now, Yechen's ordinary attack damage has reached more than 4 million, Xiaohei doubled, crit doubled, Burning Heart Ring doubled, LV5 Dochi tripled. Directly broke 100 million. You know, before Yechen was at the rank of Marshal, with full level of Fighting Spirit, the damage was 8 times higher, and a normal attack was only 50 million, $500 million. And now, Yechen is at the rank of Lieutenant General, LV5 Fighting Spirit, the damage is 3 times higher, and a normal attack is over 100 million. You can imagine the growth. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 570. In other words, after he is promoted to Marshal, he still has 5 times the room for growth. At that time, the normal attack will hit 500 million, and any skill will do 5 billion damage upwards. The finishing move can cause about 20 billion damage at any time. The most powerful backstab through the heart can probably cause 50 billion damage. When Yechen came out of hell, the world broadcast just happened to sound. Dear players, the qualifying rounds of the International Championship will be held in 3 days. There are only 2 days left to register, so all war zones and teams are asked to be ready. After the world broadcast went off, The national broadcast went off. The so-called qualifying rounds of the International Championship are actually competitions within a country. For example, the Chinese theater has 3 places to participate in the World Championship, so this qualifying competition will determine these 3 places. The qualifying competition is just an appetizer, but registration is very important. The International Championship is held once a year. Once registered, it cannot be changed, King Shang said with considerable experience. Sign up, we have enough people here to take all 3 places in the Chinese theater, Jian Wuhan said with a smile. Hearing this, everyone also smiled slightly. The people present are either kings or quasi-kings. Even the overlord and the god of thieves, the 2 kings, are here. In other words, the most powerful people in the Chinese theater are all here. How can the 3 quotas be given to outsiders? First, determine the strongest lineup. Overlord, Thief God, Jian Wuhan, me, and Lan Yan. Are you okay? King Shang glanced at everyone present and said with a smile. Everyone nodded at the same time, indicating that there was no problem. The 5 people King Shang mentioned were indeed the 5 strongest people in the current Chinese war zone. Although Sun Yang, the god of thieves, is only over level 30, he is only in the finals. There is no need to take it too seriously, just play casually. Their main goal is the World Championship. The qualifying tournament will start on the first day of March. The World Championship is initially scheduled for the first day of June. The so-called preliminary decision means that there is still the possibility of change. But obviously, there is still some time before the World Championships. With Sun Yang's strength, he will catch up sooner or later. As for Shang Wang and Lan Yan, one is a holy word mage and the other is an ice controller. They are also powerful and can coordinate well. In terms of output, they can be left to Ye Chen, Sun Yang, and Jian Wuhan. Overlord is the captain. Give the team a name. There are 4 substitutes. You choose, King Shang said. As the boss behind the 3 major teams, he personally played but gave up the captaincy to Ye Chen. This is enough to show that he now fully recognizes Ye Chen. We are the strongest team in the Chinese theater, let's call it that. 4 substitutes, Tank, Big Fried Chicken, Lan, and Lai Amang. Ye Chen easily determined the name of the team and the 4 substitute members. There is a high probability that the substitute members will sit on the bench. Forget it, in the playoffs, they may not even have a chance to play in the World Championships. But this does not mean that the substitute members are not important. Once the main members are absent or targeted by the enemy, the role of the substitute members will become interesting. Of course, the probability of the absence of a main member is extremely low, but we must take precautions before it happens. After the Chinese theater was determined, the other 2 teams were also quickly determined, both with very impressive names, and main members, Taishan, Gitu, Lengtong, Susu, Uncle Soy Sauce. Main members, Yiqian Biao Shui, Yanguo, Huo Wu, Mingtian, Shueshat. The lineups of these 3 teams are absolutely safe to compete in the playoffs in the Chinese theater. Other teams have no chance at all. Of course, their goal is definitely not the qualifying rounds, but the World Championships. The Chinese team is aiming for the World Championship, and the other 2 teams also want to get a good ranking to increase their worth. In the coming year, they will be invited by major capitals and receive more generous rewards. Not long after, 9 members of the Chinese team gathered together. I won't go to the finals. You can just find 5 people to fight with. I'm going to go to the Japanese war zone and earn a lot of merits, Ye Chen said directly. Nowadays, his name of Overlord is resounding throughout the country, and he has long been the strongest in the Chinese theater. Participating in the finals is completely meaningless and a pure waste of time. Me too, I won't participate in the finals and will go to Japan to perform meritorious service, Jian Wuhan said. The same goes for me. I'm only over level 30 now. I can't fight at all. I have to seize the time to upgrade, Sun Yang grinned. In the blink of an eye, the three trump cards gave up, making the rest of the group smile bitterly. You don't have to participate, but the draw is fair. If we encounter the Eagle team or the Dragon team before the top 3 in the country are determined, I will send you a message and you can take the time to participate. King Shang frowned and said again, with his rich professional experience. Hearing this, everyone was startled. They had not considered the possibility that the Chinese team would meet the Eagle team and the Shenlong team in advance. Well, I haven't played professionally for a year, and I almost forgot about it, but it would be a pity if our 3 teams met in advance. Jian Wuhan smiled bitterly and shook his head. As a professional player, he understands the situation of professional players very well. If the 3 teams meet in advance, one team will definitely lose, or even if they are unlucky, 2 teams may lose directly and miss the World Championship. As for the members of a losing team, no matter how powerful they are, their values will inevitably drop. This is a very painful thing for professional players. Hey, Shang Wang, with your status and position, can't you even do something behind the scenes in this small qualifying match? Tang said with a sneer. There is no father and son on the battlefield. If the 3 major teams really meet in advance, everyone will definitely go all out, because this is related to their own future. Now everyone is together, sharing honor and disgrace, and more or less they will have a kind of sympathy. Once the swords are really drawn, it will be a bit cruel. Tang suddenly couldn't stand it and couldn't help but say to Shang Wang, fantasy world is international, and its competition is fair. Shang Wang glared at him. As a former professional player, all the games in his eyes are fair. However, there are some unscrupulous capital and businessmen who open gambling houses and spend money to buy off multiple teams to make them play fake games and cheat gamblers' money. Shang Wang has seen this kind of thing many times in his career, and he hates it very much. But this kind of thing is offline after all, and it is something that you and I are willing to do, and no one can control it. As for the order of participation, this is an official system, and generally there is no fraud or so-called black box operation. After all, the audience is not stupid, and the officials who dare to tease the audience will inevitably end up miserably. Dream World is an international company with strong capital, and it will obviously not ruin its reputation.